My name's Edgar Wright. If you don't know me, I directed Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World's End, and nothing else. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Phantom of the Paradise. It was released Halloween 1974. I did not see it on first release because I was born in 1974. So the year that this came out, I came out. So I didn't know when I was 6 months old that this was going to be one of my favorite films, or that I was going to get to see it sitting next to Swan and Phoenix. So we have several guests. By the way, I know Taylor asked who had seen it on original release. Is there anybody who saw it here at the Cinerama Dome in the early 70s? Okay, a couple of you. And are there any very lucky people who just saw it for the first time? There you go. Envy these virgins. Well, we have plenty of amazing guests, so I don't know whether they're ready to come down. I hope everybody is. So I'll just introduce them anyways. But the first that we have is, of course, and an amazing year for him to be here because, earlier in the year, he accepted the Grammy for Best Album on behalf of, which he contributed to Daft Punk's Random Access Memories, and accepted it on stage with his brother Pharrell Williams. It only just occurred to me how amazing that Swan later became the president of ASCAP. That only just occurred to me during that film. Mr. Paul Williams is here! Harper as Phoenix. There will be no assassination during this Q&A. Also we have here, well, I'll introduce, I could see him coming down. Let's be upstanding for an amazing, amazing performance. This is not drugs real, this is real. Gerrit Graham as Beat is here. Give it up for Gerrit Graham. And also Gerrit Graham, everybody. Mr. Harold Oblong. Peter Elbling is here. After the Tuesday Fruits, the Undead, and the Big Drum. But also very, oh, here we go. And also Comanor is here as well. And last but by no means least, I hope he knows he's coming down. The editor of the movie, Paul Hirsch, said before Paul Hirsch comes down, I had to write down his credits because these are the Brian De Palma films that Paul Hirsch edited. Sisters, Phantom of the Paradise, Carrie, Obsession, The Fury, Blowout, Mission Impossible, Mission to Mars, Raising Cain, but then also a couple of little-known films, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, Footloose, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, Falling Down, Ray, Mission Impossible, Ghost, Protocol, but perhaps most importantly, The Crate from Creepshow. Please join us on stage.
Out of the light, he comes for the light backlit.
Does everybody have a mic? I hope we'll pass them down. Well, let me start with...
Where you want us to sit?
Yeah, this is good. I'll just go down. Well, let's start with Paul. Yeah, it occurred to me that you're the president of ASCAP, and Swan was not about artist rights.
Swan was not the best example of somebody, you know, fair play was his version of fair play, or fair use was pretty unfair. So, you know, the greatest honor I've ever been given is to actually, you know, to be the opposite of what Swan is on the screen, to stand up and find it somewhere right now while we're sitting here and we're talking about this wonderful experience. Brian De Palma's amazing work and Bill Finley's amazing performance. While we're doing this, there's some young lady writing the songs that, you know, she's probably writing with the headphones on, so she doesn't wake the baby in the next room. The fact is, she deserves to be able to have a life and make a living with her music just like I did. So that's my gig at ASCAP.
Before we go back in time, just to kind of keep it extremely current, because in February this year, you were on stage accepting on behalf of Daft Punk with Pharrell Williams. Now, I have a theory about Random Access Memories. I know that they are huge fans of Phantom of the Paradise, but your two songs for that album, Touch and Beyond, felt to me like missing songs from Phantom of the Paradise. Would that be correct?
You know, the great thing about this whole experience, there are two relationships I have right now that are directly connected to Phantom of the Paradise. One is Random Access Memories that I was asked to do to write for the album and perform on the album. You know, and I mean, and at my age, to stand up there and accept an album for Album of the Year, this is so Swan. It's amazing. It was spectacular, but it happened because those two brilliant Frenchmen were fans of Phantom of the Paradise. I'm currently working on a musical for a stage version of Pan's Labyrinth with Guillermo del Toro. And he's brilliant. And the reason I even have a relationship with Guillermo is because of Phantom of the Paradise. So, you know, don't write something off as a failure too quickly. In 1974, the world ignored Phantom of the Paradise. Today, thanks to you, thanks to the people who love Phantom of the Paradise, it's alive enough for people like Edgar Wright to know it and care for it. And someday maybe I'll get a job with him. You never know.
Paul, I'd like you to moderate the 40th anniversary of Scott Pilgrim in 2050. But also, I'd like to say, I take it as my one-man mission to prove to everybody that Phantom of the Paradise is a better film than the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Thank you. I'm going to be extremely partisan proud for that opinion. Now, let's go backwards, Paul. You had done a couple of movies before, like crucially The Loved One and The Chase, but then by the time you did Phantom of the Paradise, this is your first lead role, but you had by this point become an extremely successful songwriter and performer. So how did then, like Brian, come to you? At what stage in the process?
Brian went to A&M Records and said he wanted somebody to write the songs for this movie, Phantom of the Fillmore, and I don't know, to this day, I'm not sure why he chose me, because, you know, my history, what I'd written for 3 Dog Night and Carpenters, was so different from what I was going to be asked to write for, you know, for Winslow, and, you know, and for the songs for this picture. I'm not sure why he chose me, but it's one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given, because it allowed me to satirize the music that I loved. I love the Beach Boys. I love the sound of the 50s. I discovered the 50s in my late 20s. It was like, wow, you know. And it was not drug use. That came later. I actually do know drug real from real. I'm 24 years sober, so I can prove it. He asked me to, you know, to write, and what I had that was the hidden treasure, and Colin Cameron, that played bass and all this stuff, is sitting in the audience. And what I had that was an absolute hidden treasure was an amazing band, an amazing road band that played on my demos, played on the road with me. So these guys went into the studio with me, and we cut all that music, we cut all those tracks, and it was a comfort level and inventiveness that I got a lot of credit for that inventiveness of those arrangements and everything, which was Art Munson and Dave Garland and Colin, and the guys that, you know, that played, that were just spectacular.
One of the things that's amazing about this film is, like, Brian De Palma's screenplay, you know, co-wrote and wrote many of his other films, but he never really wrote anything like this ever again. And, like, it's an amazing satire about the recording industry. So when you read it, like, were you you know, how much of it kind of like sort of felt true to you? Did you ever meet a real life Swan in your days?
I never met a real life Swan in my days. You know, people said, you know, that Brian, I think, actually saw a little kind of a little power thing or whatever going on in me that, you know, when he offered Swan to me, it was, I think it was sort of, there's a little, you know, look, a Reader's Digest version of Phil Spector, you know. So, no, I think that this whole experience with the script changed so much. The major change was when Gerrit did not die, when Beef did not die in the shower, because originally, Beef, you know, that song at the end, The Hell of It, was written for the funeral scene for Beef, who was supposed to die initially in the shower. And when the adjustment was made to have him die on stage, I think we found the heart of the film. Because what I think the film is about is said in the one line on the stairs of the film, an assassination, coast to coast, live on television. That's entertainment. I think that's the heart of the picture, that we'd entered into a place with watching the footage from Vietnam every night while we have our TV dinners. We'd lost the place where news and entertainment began to bleed together in a fashion that, I mean, look at reality television these days. They're scripting it, I'm sure. It's gone the other way and all, but we'd gotten to that place that was kind of frightening. What had become our entertainment, and I think that became a big part of the film.
And music itself, in terms of like, you know, in terms of the musical acts in the film, especially in terms of Beef, like, you know, real music caught up with that pretty fast. You know, in terms of it was kind of both ahead of its time, but then kind of like in terms of Alice Cooper or kind of onstage acts like Ozzy Osbourne, you know, biting the head of a bat. Real life caught up with this film pretty quickly.
You know, it's funny because there's so much that I kind of feel of that music that I love, but that I hadn't really written. A really strange example of you know, just let things light where they're going to light, and somehow, you know, things will wind up where they're supposed to be. I wrote the first thing I ever had recorded was recorded by Tiny Tim. I wrote a song with Biff Rose called "Feel Your Heart," the Tiny Tim recorded, and I was like, I don't want, that's not, I mean, I love Tiny Tim, but that's not what I want to write for him. I'm an edgy street guy, you know. I mean, like, you know, that leather, you know, sort of edgy. That's me, streetwise. It's a tough call, you know. I want David Bowie to record my songs, not Tiny Tim. And years later, on the Hunky Dory album, David Bowie recorded "Feel Your Heart." It was the first outside song he'd ever done. So there must be something inside me that is crying, kind of reaching to get out, that wants to be an edgy rock and roller, you know. Probably too old for it now, but I'm going to keep trying.
For some reason, even though you have so many amazing lines in this film, and like even just your first off-camera appearance and your first on-camera appearance are all amazing, and yet my favorite line of the film is you saying, "Filters." Now, let's go to introducing Jessica Harper. Now, Jessica, I have a theory.
It's like introducing is my first name.
I know. And you're age 23?
No, I was, let's see, that was 40 years ago, so I was 7.
I have this theory about you that you have only appeared in cult classics. Suspiria, Heaven, Love and Death, Stardust Memories, Shock Treatment, Talking State. You have only appeared in cult classics. You have an amazing filmography.
My filmography, which consists of pretty consistently bombs. And
The well-loved
kind of like everything was a bomb that I ever was in. I don't know, makes you think. But as a person, you think, I don't know. But on the
Ladies
other
and gentlemen,
hand,
these films are classics.
they bombed, but then they got legs. They got a heartbeat. That's because of people like you. Thanks for keeping my bombs alive.
Tell us, so this was your debut role, and what an amazing first role to get. Tell us about what you had been doing immediately before, how you met Brian, etc.
I was in New York doing theater. First I was in the cast of Hair. I guess this belies the thing about my being 7, because I was in the cast of Hair in 1969. Anyway, then I was doing some off-Broadway theater, and I did an off-Broadway show that got a lot of attention. And in New York, all those theater geeks, when there's a show that does well, everybody sees it, and everybody saw Brian. saw it, or maybe his people saw it, I'm not sure. But anyway, the Woody Allen people, all the people who went on to make My Bomb saw this movie, the show, and so I got this thrilling invitation to go and sing for Paul Williams, and I had to go to I think it was in New York, off to some office building in a room with Paul Williams, and I had to sing, I think it was...
Can I just tell just a brief addendum to this, because there's actually a reference to it in the film. When I walked up behind Jessica, and what I had everybody sing was, long ago, and oh so far away, I fell in the superstar. Beautiful song by Liam Russell. So I'm standing behind Jessica, and she's singing to herself, long ago, and oh so far away, and I was like, oh my God, oh yeah, that's perfect. And she came in to sing for Brian and I, and she belted it. She's an actress who was working Broadway right then, and she went, long ago, and I went, no, sing it, do you remember that?
No. I was only 7 at the time.
She sang it then to herself, and it's your performance of Old Souls is one of the most treasured things in my life.
As I said to Paul, as we were sitting here, I said, thank you so much for that song, because it was such a gift, incredible gift, getting that song.
Jessica, it only occurred to me watching it from this now that both Phantoms of Paradise and Suspiria both climax with somebody being stabbed with a feather. I don't know why I get assigned these movies where people get stabbed. There's something I forget. The thing in Suspiria, though, was I got to do the stabbing. Now, your husband was the president of production of Fox for many years, and I remember I had a general meeting with him once, and I was extremely impressed that he had a massive Phantom of the Paradise poster outside his door.
I was impressed by that, too. He had the whole Fox archives. He could have picked any poster. He put up the Phantom of the Paradise. That's why I love my husband.
There you go.
Well, one of the reasons.
It is an amazing thing, though, in terms of, as a first film, one of the things that is incredible about it is not only is this your first film and, it's what an amazing cult classic, but also, one of the most amazing things about it is it's made by a major studio. The 20th Century Fox logo at the start is something that's movies, I don't think you would get a movie like this made by a major studio today, unless, your ex-husband your husband, can sort of change that. Sorry, I screwed that up.
Yes, so 20th Century Fox, and not only that, but I got the whole thing where I got, after I sang for Paul and Brian, it was like one of the movies from the 40s. I got flown out to Hollywood to do a screen test, staying at the Chateau Marmont, and I was up against Linda Ronstadt. Do you remember? I was up against Linda Ronstadt.
I don't remember that.
But I thought for sure that was going to be a no-brainer, that they would hire me, because I was stabbed and I stabbed people. Anyway, and then we went to Musso and Frank's for dinner, and Marty Scorsese joined us, and the costume designer took me, this was, I thought, kind of a dead giveaway. The costume designer came to our dinner table at Musso and Frank's and dragged me into the bathroom and measured me. I thought maybe that was indicative that I was going to be coming back. But anyway, it was a real, one of those sort of Katharine Hepburn kind of old movie experiences, that screen test thing, and very exciting. And then I got the phone call from Brian.
And how does it feel watching it 40 years later with a packed house, laughing and clapping all the way through it?
Well, it's certainly different from the first time I saw it. The house of 2 other people.
Do you remember what cinema it was?
It was in New York. I don't remember actually, and it was actually true to tell. It was more than 2 people, but because it was, I think, opening night, but I can't remember what theater it was. I was trying to remember. Anybody remember anything at all? 40 years.
We saw it in Westwood.
Yeah, the premiere was in Westwood.
Yeah. Westwood, yeah.
Oh.
And Halloween.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, was it Halloween?
Yeah.
You were 7.
Oh yes, I remember.
I was busy trick-or-treating.
You know, I'm going to get out of this man's life, but I think you'll agree, like, that was an amazing, showing of that movie, but to sit there and see Gerrit Graham getting laughs and applause with every single line. Woo!
Well, it's hard to know sometimes if you're laughing with me or at me.
Yeah, it's an incredible performance, Gerrit.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.
You've worked with Brian twice before this.
That's right. Yeah.
Greetings and hi, Mom.
Right. I was a sophomore at Columbia University in New York City, and I had been made general manager of the Columbia Players, basically because nobody else wanted the gig. And it was the extracurricular theater group. And one day I was down in the Players' office during a non-production period, which was extremely unusual that I was down there at all. And the phone rang, and it was this guy saying, I was in the Players 10 years ago, so I thought, for old time's sake, you guys might be willing to help me with the, we wanted extras, I think, and maybe a little wardrobe stuff. And I was, sure. And he said that I would also be happy if you could find me a couple, 3 actors, experienced actors, with, particularly with comedic experience. People in the fine arts program there, or at the Minor Latham Playhouse across the street at Barnard. And if you find people like that, will you send them down to see me? I said, I sure will. And what was that address again, Mr. De Palma? And I'd never, you must guess by now that I never sent another soul down there. I went to see him myself, and ended up in the living room of the producer, who happens to be the brother of our editor, and improvised with, well, there was another guy named Bob who was there all the time, and a third guy sort of rotated in and out, and we just improvised on various suggestions that Brian made, and ultimately ended up with Bob De Niro and me, and a third guy named Jonathan Wharton, and Brian had a scenario but not a script, and he had certain ideas that he wanted to make sure made it in, but we improvised the entire thing. And same thing with the sequel the following year, sort of a sequel called Hi Mom.
Yes.
Yeah. By the time we got to Phantom, he just called and asked me if I wanted to play the part. And interestingly, the part he initially offered me was Swan. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I did. And he asked me, at one point he asked me about playing, my initial offer was Winslow. And I went, I'm too little to be scary. You get this little guy, little creature throwing things down from the...
Yeah.
I couldn't do what Bill Finley did with one eye. I don't know another actor could do what he did.
I didn't know anybody else that could pull off feet.
Well, I was young, dumb, and full of cum. I didn't really have a very clear picture of what I was doing, to be perfectly frank. Brian asked me to come out and audition musically, I think it was, for him and for Paul. And I don't know if you remember this. You guys kept saying, well, that was good, but could you make it a little more sort of bigger, more demonstrative? And finally, the word they settled on was flamboyant. Could you make it a little more flamboyant? Which was, of course, code at the time for gay. And I said, oh, what do you mean, like this? Bingo! That's it.
Brian said, yes.
And it was, to me, it was just cheap shit, you know. But it turned out to be an actual character. There was just something in me. I don't know what that says about my sick brain, but it was just a character that came out fully formed. And I didn't, because of the earlier films I'd done with Brian and that relationship, I trusted him and he trusted me that we would be able to satisfy each other's aims and intentions. So it was, I had a great deal of freedom to do whatever I wanted, and a lot of those lines in the scenes with George Memley. And I must say here at this point, those scenes are funny because there were two people involved. One was me and the other was George Memley. And those scenes would not have worked without George. It was what you might call a double act. But a lot of lines that are among people's favorites, like "Dry Up, Tubbo," and "Bones." Dry up, Tubbo. And I interrupt that were my lines. They were improvised. It didn't strike me at the time as anything interesting or difficult or anything. That's too dumb, you know.
I would love to interrupt just to tell you something that you probably won't tell you, and I assume he remembers. But when we shot The Life at Last number, you had, I think, 103 temperature. You were so sick you couldn't stand up.
That's it. I don't remember being sick. I've heard this. I've been told this a number of times. I have no recollection. Apparently, I had 101 fever or something.
Because you were
Flu. I have no recollection of that whatsoever. A good thing, probably.
He was delusional. He was so sick he couldn't. He was so sick he doesn't remember being sick. But you were horribly ill, and you walked out on stage in front of the camera, and you came alive, and you were just. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I was going to ask your physical performance on stage. You're like a man possessed. Was there any like stage performers at the time, or any rock stars that you took inspiration from?
No, my opinion is that they took inspiration from me. I'm a big music fan, I'm a big rock fan, but except for sort of burlesque comedy acts, like there was a guy named Joe Bryant. You might remember Joe Bryant. Are you kidding me? Come on. Joe Bryant fans? No. Wow. There's a few sort of acts that have been sort of showbized up, if you know what I mean. But because I'd been a record reviewer for a while, I did have a sense that we were goofing on the music industry. We were goofing on the rock stars with inflated egos. But I didn't. It wasn't uppermost in my mind. I was just having fun. Peter and I have been friends for a long time, and the four of us, the Juicy Fruits and me, we just had a million laughs all the time. It was just a great, happy set for us. Anyway, we made fun of Brian a lot, as I remember. Did I even begin to answer your question?
We were just saying that you were brilliant, Gerrit.
Ah, but yes, I can agree with that. Thank you. Well, I'm struck. Actually, this time, for the first time ever, watching it, I thought I was funny. Actors are generally getting dissatisfied with their work. If you become too satisfied, too happy about your own work, you become complacent, and then you stop trying to be better. Stop trying to reach for a better performance and anything. Is that not so?
No.
I'm looking at you, my dear. Yeah. But at this time, I was able to see it with more objectivity, and it is pretty goddamn funny, I have to say.
Well, I'm going to do a good segue to our next guest in a second, but one of the things that is amazing about it, and on the basis of tonight, especially in terms of people who have seen it for the first time, is it does play like sort of contemporary audiences, and I think that must be amazing to sit there and watch it now and be getting laughs and applause with every single line.
Well, I think funny is funny. In the context of a rock musical or a stand-up routine, whatever it is funny. I don't think it's hidebound by the time period it's in, or the subject matter of whatever the setting is in general. You know, Laurel and Hardy are still funny as hell. You know what I mean? It just, if you're lucky enough to acquit yourself of something truly funny, that's a fortunate thing, I'll say. That's a fortunate thing. The great actor, I can't remember his name, he's the great star of the Yiddish theater in New York. As he liked Lee dying, said, people were saying, oh, it must be hard to die. He said, no, dying is easy. Comedy is hard. And I'm fortunate to say, I never found it hard. It was just, it was fun to make fun, I guess.
I'm gonna talk now to the stars of well, three musical acts within the film: the Beach Bums, the Juicy Fruits, and the Undead. Peter Elbling, aka Harold Oblong. What an amazing pseudonym.
Thank you.
And Jeffrey Comanor as well. Like now, both of you perform several sort of songs within the movie.
Peter said Peter also choreographed the film. And so Beef waggling his butt had a good deal to do with Peter.
Well, Peter, can you explain Gerrit's amazing chicken dance?
I don't think I can explain it. We were just trying to think of something that was really ridiculous, and doing a chicken dance, I think, in the middle of a rock and roll solo is about as stupid as we could think. And I think it's to Gerrit's credit that he just threw everything into it. And even if you don't see the chicken exactly, you see Gerrit being a chicken. And that's, what else can you ask for? I think that's amazing.
Now, you appear as, and you were listed as choreographer, as Harold Oblong.
Right.
Can you explain that pseudonym?
Yeah, well, my real name, if I may correct you, is
I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's Elbling. And at one point in my early acting career, I just didn't think that was just very attractive. So I decided to go with Harold Oblong. Why? I don't know, but I did. I just know
That is
that.
attractive.
I just know that I did that for about 2 years, and then I was on the set of Rhoda. And I remember deciding to change my name, and I announced it to everybody. And I remember Valerie Harper going, oh, thank God. So I was Harold Oblong for 2 years, and I went back to Peter Elbling. And I've been there ever since, thank goodness.
Now, can you tell us how you came to be involved in the film and how Brian approached you?
Well, I think aside from Brian, I knew Bill Finley longer than anybody else. I had met him in an improv class in New York, and we've become friends. And then I replaced the wonderful John Belushi in a stage show. You all remember John, right? He was in a wonderful musical comedy, a wonderful satire called Lemmings. And yes, and he went on the road, and I took his place in the New York company. And at the time, Brian was looking to cast the Juicy Fruits, and I think he was actually going to. Who was he going to cast? Cinerama, that's right. And before he made that decision, Bill said, "You've got to come down and see Lemmings." So he came down and saw Lemmings, and he saw me, and I had brought Archie into the company, so he hired the two of us, and then Paul suggested Jeffrey Comanor, and that's how the three of us got together. And in Lemmings we sang, so Paul knew we could sing. So that's how it came about. And I'm eternally grateful. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
And in terms of the choreography aspect, that been, you've done a lot of kind of you were trained in physical comedy and dance.
Yeah, well, I'd done a lot of mime and physical comedy, and that came about because the night before we started shooting, there was a sort of pre-shoot party, and I happened to be sitting next to Brian, and Brian said just out loud, well, all I need now is a choreographer. And I said, I'll do it. He said, okay. Easiest gig I ever had in my life. And well, I just did it from there, you know.
Now, in terms of like the influences in the music are obvious, and especially to the Juicy Fruits and the Beach Bums. But what are some of the influences for the undead? Because they seem in a way like the most influential like acts on later kind of like acts. There's a bit of like Kiss in there, there's a bit of sensational Alex Harvey band. What were some of the things that you took inspiration from?
I didn't really. It was a song. I mean, it's to Paul's credit. It was a song that...
Well, Brian was interested in making it look like the cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Yes, in terms of the makeup and
A
everything.
German expressionist type of deal like that.
Yeah, but the
Very
actual...
expressionist and really over the top. With the whole thing, the most important thing about that song is that, and what the performance of that song is that we see theatrical violence on stage, you know, and it's just, I mean, it's wonderful to watch and all, but it sets up what is clear to us is a dummy, that it's not really in the film. We're asked to believe that the audience thinks that's theatrical violence, and then when they see me get zapped, they go, ah, that's just much better theatrical violence. They think it's part of the show.
Right. But in terms of the performance, it was just the song led me to do what I did. And people have always said, well, did you take your inspiration from Kiss? And I always say, no, they got their inspiration from us.
Now, Jeffrey, you get to appear in one of the most amazing set pieces, the upholstery set piece with the split screen and singing the Beach Boys pastiche. So can you tell us a little bit about that scene?
That scene was, I don't know, it's just fun. I mean, it really was fun. And I got to sing that song in the studio weeks before we went on location, which is before we were
Should he
recording.
be louder? Could you hear
Am I
him?
not heard? Okay. Yeah, we all taped our solo parts before we flew out to Texas to do the shooting. So we all got to know the songs as recording people at the time. And I loved it. I've known Paul, we met in '68, I think.
We met in 1927.
You promised
We were
not
altar
to.
boys. Jeffrey is a wonderful songwriter and had a huge hit in the early '70s called "We'll Never Have to Say Goodbye Again." A beautiful song. Jeffrey wrote, one of my favorites ever. And we were both crazy, and you know, we were in the middle of the '70s. It was a large chemical experiment, and insanity, and you were 7, exactly. But Jeffrey's humor is always been, you know, he was also a great cartoonist. He had this thing with frogs you did forever.
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah, frogs were hilarious, you know.
Aren't we all talented?
I was going to say, Jeffrey...
Say again?
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'd just like to say, Paul knows this as well as any of us. That scene of Beach Bums looks as though, or might look as though the two halves were shot at separate times. But in fact, it was 2 cameras filming at the same time, choreographed. The camera movement was choreographed so that they just missed each other as they came around a corner. And when you see Philbin put the guys in and the girls in that phony car and push them out there, on the other side of the screen, it appears, the car appears, and that's the same car at the same moment. And Brian, it's a classic Brian move, and there were no technical whiz-bangs that were of assistance at any point at that point. I just thought it was a brilliant piece of
That was
filmmaking.
an ambitious shot. I think it was one take.
The other thing to notice about that is that it was inspired by Touch of Evil. It starts with the Phantom putting a bomb in the trunk of the car, which is the opening shot of Touch of Evil.
The other shot in the film that I think has to be mentioned because it was done in advance of a Steadicam, but it was Ronnie Taylor with the camera on his shoulder. The amazing shot when the Phantom goes in and finds his wardrobe, finds his helmet, and you know there's this long shot beginning with opening the stage door, going up the stairs past the board with the rehearsal schedule and the like, going into the wardrobe room and pulling first the black suit and then the helmet which he puts over the lens, was done with, I mean, that's just the physicality of doing that, would you say was?
It was actually more than one shot.
It's an amazing, amazing shot. Would you say?
It was actually more than one shot, but.
Well, it was? Well, wait a minute. I've been for years going, watch this. From the door, from the door, where's it break? I never saw it.
That's his magic.
That's how good it
Wait,
is.
I want the truth, I want it. I swear to God, I thought it was one shot.
Well, there's a shot in the street in the alley you see backstage, and the camera tilts up the stairs.
Yeah.
And we wipe to the door at the top of the stairs. We don't actually go up the stairs.
Yeah. So I'm talking about from the door up to the inside of the wardrobe is
Yes.
one shot.
Yes.
Thank you.
I will tell you that at the end of the upholstery scene, when we get pushed off the stage, you know that explosion. Andy Epper was the stunt guy who coordinated that stunt, and he was so enthusiastic about that scene. He put way too many naphthalene flakes in the box. And when that thing blew up, there was so much more explosion than any of us were ready for. And we're sitting there in our skivvies practically off stage, and we run through that, and we all got burned. It was like a real stunt. Yeah, I think I got fired. You didn't help.
If I could ask the magical Paul Hirsch at the end. Now, this movie, what's incredible looking at it now, is this movie looks ambitious by 2014 standards. So back in 1973, when you're making this movie, you and Brian must be like aware that you're doing something truly groundbreaking.
I don't think we were particularly aware of it, but I have to say that the reaction that the picture got tonight was so gratifying to watch the film with a large audience laughing at all the laugh lines and applauding the musical numbers. This is the kind of reaction we expected to have when the picture opens. I kind of remember the New York Daily News gave the picture half a star.
Fuck those guys.
That's because I was in it.
They asked for it back, actually.
So it was extremely disappointing, and this is so much the opposite. I just can't tell you how fantastic it is to have been here tonight and seen this.
I mean, it's incredibly, you know, even after you'd already done Sisters with Brian De Palma, you would go on to have much bigger hits with Brian, and some of the biggest hits of all time, Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. But this movie, in terms of when you were making it, you must have been aware, you know, you're pushing the boundaries, or you kind of like sort of, in terms of the producers in the studio, are they even aware of what they're going to get in terms of the finished product?
Well, I don't know that we had that kind of perspective on what we were doing. We were just doing it. We weren't outside ourselves looking at ourselves doing it. And it has to be pointed out that this was not a studio production. This was an independent production. It was picked up by 20th Century Fox. The picture would never get made today, and probably wouldn't have gotten made then if not for it having been an independent production. But it was a thrill for me because I had been a music student in high school. I went to the High School of Music and Art in New York, and I played the drums. And music is my first love, but I'm not really a great musician. I'm a music lover more than a musician. And to edit a musical was, for me, it used all my musical ability for whatever it is, and it was extremely fun. And it's interesting watching it. I haven't seen this picture in 40 years. I remember the montage at the end where we highlight the members of the cast. We had this song that had not been used in the film. We wanted to use it. It was a wonderful song, and upbeat, and ironically upbeat, but upbeat nevertheless. And we felt that the ending of the picture was kind of very depressing, and we wanted to remind the audience of what a wonderful time they had during the first hour and a half of the film. So we created this montage at the end to lighten the mood, so it didn't end on.
There are two things that I would love to say at the moment. One is that if you watch a movie that was made 40 years ago, you'll notice a difference in the rhythm of the way film was cut. The things are cut so much quicker now. So if I see pictures that I really love from 30 or 40 years ago, sometimes the cut is too slow for me. That never happens in this. Watching your editing of Phantom of the Opera, it is absolutely. There is not. I don't think there's a spot in there where I feel anything close to a lag. It's the timing of it, and it relates to the music as well. I mean, there's something in that. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Because it was great too. What the hell? I remember in the middle of the night, what I was going to say is that originally the song, and one of the great tragic moments for me was when we didn't get to shoot the scene that the hell it was written for. Because when originally there was a graveyard scene where a big funeral scene for Bee's funeral, and I don't know why we never shot it. I don't know if we didn't have any money, we couldn't find it. Was it finances? I think it was probably we didn't have enough money to shoot it. But what I wanted to do was kind of a takeoff on Nina Rhoda and do that kind of an 8.5 ending with everybody dancing in a little circle around the open grave. And if you follow all the cables, you go back to a hearse where Swan is recording the funeral, and at the very end, a little girl jumps on the casket and is being lowered into the grave and starts tap dancing, auditioning for Swan, and that's what that sound is. But thank God, instead of it getting tossed out, you grabbed it, cut the end credits to it, and it's one of my favorite things to sit there and be reminded of that film.
I think we should just remember that Paul Hirsch is a genius. One thing I'll say, Paul, is that you, because he's not here, and obviously he's the writer-director of this movie, but you worked with Brian on several occasions, and and this is an unusual film in his canon. In terms of he never really made a musical again. He made a comedy, but he never made a comedy musical. So could you just talk about that and your relationship with Brian?
Well, Brian was my mentor and very early supporter when I was a young editor. I did 5 pictures for him before anyone else gave me a job. He encouraged me, he gave me a lot of freedom, he empowered me to a great extent, and we were extremely close. I sometimes think that my relationship with him is sort of like a film running in reverse. We started out as brothers, became friends, and we became colleagues, then acquaintances, and now we're strangers. So, Mr. De Palma is a brilliant filmmaker. I don't think he's really been appreciated in this country in the way that he deserves.
Agreed.
He's always looking for visual expression in an original way. He disdained the conventions of ordinary movie making, and was always reaching for something new. And I owe him an enormous amount. He's just, like I say, he was my mentor and teacher when I was learning to cut. This is my 3rd film, and I went on to do 8 more with him. So, here's to you, Brian.
Before we open up to the floor,
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, of course.
I just wanted to tell a little anecdote. I'm having a little teary moment because of the absence of my friend William. The first day of shooting for me, my first movie ever, the first thing I had to do was to be sexually assaulted by a 350-pound man. In the form of George Memley wearing turquoise boxer shorts and a purple velour sweatshirt. You saw that scene. Go in, he jumps on you, you come out. It was my first day of shooting, and, you know, I didn't know anything about shooting a movie. I didn't know. When they said, hit your mark, I thought they meant to find somebody named Mark and punch him in the nose. And I was very nervous and very short on confidence until this presence appeared on the set in the form of William Finley, who he was just very reassuring. He made me feel like I could do it, not by saying a whole lot, just by being there and being essentially kind and attentive. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you, Bill.
He was a great companion to have when you're making a movie. It's nice to have a buddy or somebody you're comfortable with, and Bill was a great companion. It made everything, as Jesse says, made everything easier and more enjoyable because he himself was having such a good time.
Actually, Susan, would you like to join us on stage? Susan Finley, William. Keep your applause coming, come on. Give that woman a microphone.
Well, I just wanted to say, first of all, to all of you who have come today, that on behalf of Bill, I guess I could sit down, yes? On behalf of Bill, it means so much to me and to Dashiell that you're here and that he's here. He is here. He's represented. It would have crushed me, I think, to come to the 40th anniversary and not have him with us in some way. He loved this film so much, and he loved all of you, and I think he had such a great time. And it was really painful to him when the film was stillborn, and we went to see the film. We barely had cab fare to go home, and Bill had proposed marriage to me and was hoping that he would be able to say to my parents, see, I've got a career, I'm ready to go, I'm going to take care of Susan. And so he was kind of heartbroken, as you can imagine. And Fanapalooza, and then the second Fanapalooza, and getting to see this growing audience that loved this film the way he did before he died was so happy-making. I mean, it really confirmed for him that something that he loved, other people got it too, because, you know, Bill was a very unique and eccentric guy. And I have to say, Edgar, that when Dashiell told us about your films, and he thought there was some nod to Phantom in them, and when we went, the look on Bill's face, that, you know, that look, that very innocent and excited and happy look that he would get on his face, just watching your movies. And by the time we got to Scott Pilgrim, we're sitting next to each other going, it's that was and I said, do you think he likes it? I think he liked it. So thank you, everybody, for coming. And
We love Bill.
thank you. And Bill loved these people, and he loved meeting the audience, getting to know the audience, and learning about what Phantom meant to people, because he was very interested in the fact that it actually had a pretty profound effect on a lot of people. So thank you very much. Do I have the gift here for Edgar? Rod? Rod? Where is he? I had something that I wanted to give you. Is Rod here? Oh, there we are. Okay. You may not know this about Bill, but before he was an actor, he was actually an artist. He was a cartoonist and an artist, and got a full scholarship to Rhode Island School of Design. but his father wanted him to go to Columbia thinking he would study business. Haha, he wound up in theater. Yeah, take it off. So he did a series of paintings and mixed media art, and he could never bear to part with anything, so he couldn't sell anything. He'd get depressed when he'd sell his paintings. So Giclée prints, I can't pronounce it right, Giclée prints, French, have enabled me to make a limited edition of one of his pieces. This is from a Philip K. Dick novel, I believe. There's something, the divine invasion, and I feel like it's one part of the mind of William Finley.
I'd just like to add to what Susan said about being happy that people enjoyed the film. Part of the reason, a large part of the reason we're here tonight is that our impresario tonight is a guy named Rod Warkentin, and he is from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and Winnipeg, Manitoba is the one place on the planet where Phantom was a gigantic hit. Beggars forever. And Rod and his pals threw well, it wasn't really a convention at first. It was sort of a celebratory weekend marking what was for them the 31st anniversary of the film's release, and got hold of Bill and me. He said, why don't you come up and be part of this thing? I thought the whole thing sounded way too sketchy. But then I heard from Bill, who said, come on, let's go, it's going to be fun. He was totally up for it, and he was absolutely right. It was, we had a ball and did it again the next year with the whole cast, and it was a ton of fun. And it was wonderful to see Bill getting the admiration and adulation that he deserved for his performance and his career. And he took as much pleasure in it as people took pleasure in him, I think.
Just wanted to tell you in terms of Phantompalooza that Bill got the phone call from, I guess, Gloria and Rod, the wonderful Manitobians. And he said to Dashiell and me, well, I don't know, it could wind up being a screening on a large DVD player in their basement, for all we know. But they're sincere and they really love the movie. Let's go. I'm going to call Gerrit and talk him into it. Which he did. And then while they were on the radio, some radio station during the first Phantompalooza, he just announced that they were going to do a second one, and everyone was coming, unbeknownst to everyone, including the promoters of Phantompalooza 1. And thanks to Ari Khan, who put out his credit card, we had Phantompalooza 2, in which we all got to see this stillborn baby come to life, and we all got to see that the baby lives, the baby walks, and people like this baby.
It would not be amiss to give Rod Warkentin and the rest of the Winnipeggers in Absentia a big round of applause.
Yes. And
And I think it would be appropriate to say that in the first 5 minutes that Shonda did, I went, okay, this is somebody that I've got to get to know. Edgar Wright is brilliant, and for you to pay respect to all of us by doing this, be Edgar Wright, everybody, Edgar Wright.
Well, let's I don't know how much time we have, but let's take some questions from the floor. If I could see your hands. I can see this lady, sorry. I can repeat your question.
What is the image on Bill's shirt in the first scene? And was the movie shot in sequence?
Paul could probably answer the second part. Was the movie shot in sequence?
No, actually, the first day of shooting was in the recording studio when Swan is creating recreating the Phantom's voice. I love when he finally gets the filtering exactly right, and we hear Paul's voice, and he says, "Perfect." But what I remember about the first day of shooting was a fire broke out in the air conditioning dome, and everybody was saying, you don't mess with the devil. So, no, the picture was not shot in sequence.
Did anybody answer the question about what was on Bill's T-shirt in the opening scene?
Eric Satie, really?
Okay, let's take another question. That will remain controversial. We think it's List.
That's a guess.
List,
This man here.
Yes, this is for Mr. Hirsch. I am an editor by trade. I've studied you in school and whatnot. I want to know what inspired you to make the end credits edited the way they were for the hell of it.
I thought I had explained that we wanted was there something in particular you were asking?
But why like it in such rapid succession and with those particular moments?
Well, I tried to match the images to the music in a dance-like way, so it's hard for me to articulate exactly the process, but it was meant to entertain, to remind. It was sort of like a trailer in a way for the movie you'd just seen. That was the highlight moments for each of these characters that I was using the music as inspiration for the cutting.
Really good, isn't it?
This man in the green has had his hand up for a long time. Green T-shirt, glasses. There you go.
There's a scene at an airport. It's like a news conference, and it looks like something. There's a digital.
Able to legally use Swan Song Enterprises, we would have spent more money than it cost to make the film, and it would have been 4 years later, and by then I'd be old and married.
Yeah, when that article, there was a little article in Rolling Stone announcing that Led Zepp and their renowned ogre of a manager, Peter Grant, had formed this new record label, Swan Records. And I took it up to Ed Pressman, our producer, who was standing on stage watching things. I showed him, "Ed, have you seen this? I think they can pay attention to this. This might be..." "Oh, poo-poo." He said, "That's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about that."
There were a couple of legal situations involving this picture that I think, very quick adjustments were made, rather than fighting for, what might have been, a successful legal battle, would have been so time-consuming and so expensive that the easiest thing to do was to fly in a little, what would now be computer graphics, and probably could be done now where you wouldn't have any of that nasty vibration. Incidentally, we shot that on I think the week before the Dallas-Fort Worth airport actually opened. That was a brand new airport. Not a plane had landed there except Swan's jet. By Virginal Airlines.
In losing Swans on records, you do gain Death Records, which is a pretty amazing replacement.
Well, Death Records was also in the film earlier, but when I see those bad opticals, I have to remind myself how quickly we had to do them with the technology of the time. They didn't have tracking. They didn't. It's painful to see today, although the body of the film carries, but it's hard not to see those blemishes. But they were imposed on us by a legal situation, very tight schedule, very little money, and we had to cut some really beautiful tracking shots out of the picture.
There's a certain elegance to our scars, I think, sometimes, so it floats along there.
Paul, do you know if did Led Zeppelin ever see the film?
I believe they did. I mean, the whole genesis of the suit was that this man had represented the idea of Beef being electrocuted on stage was based on an actual incident in which a real musician was killed in an accident on stage, and that was the inspiration for the for the gag in the film, but this man had been, his manager was standing in the wings when the actual musician had been killed. So he vowed he would spend every last penny he had to stop the film from opening. So,
I think people might be interested to know, especially your creation, how Beef's electrocution scene was created in the editing.
It's fabulous.
oh, well, I had this idea that if you took each pair of frames and reversed them, two at a time, so
You cut some frames out, no?
no, it's all happening in real time, except that if you number the frames 1 to 10, I went 2, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5, 8, 7, 10, 9. So it's happening in real time, and all the frames are there, but they're in the wrong order. So it seems, you know, with the sound effect of the
Well, it works like crazy, in my opinion.
photographic image. There's nothing added to the image. It's just as it was photographed. But I actually did the splicing one frame at a time. Anyway, so.
Is there an effect also on the box when he's escaping? There's a little, it feels like you almost did a little something to the box. That whole sequence, that escape sequence is cut together amazingly, I think.
Yeah, I actually don't really remember, but.
The box, it opens in this kind of a, you know, sort of a snap.
I just found
odd rhythm to the opening of the box. I thought maybe you might have done something to that as well.
I found the whole picture and all the performances so inspiring, and the music and everything. It was just a joy to work on, you know. I feel sort of privileged because you guys were in every scene, but I worked on every scene. So I feel lucky in that sense.
Lots of people have had their hands up for. Let's go for this waiting man here.
My question would be for Jessica, and I wonder if you remember filming the opening sequences there where you're first auditioning. Robin Matson being one of the women that was in the sequence, and she later went on to play Heather Weber on General Hospital. And I wonder if you knew that, or if you remember her at all, or working with her on this.
You have to remember, I was 7. I had not, no, to be perfectly honest, my answer would be no.
Okay.
I never saw General Hospital. I don't know who Robin Manson is. Sorry. Gerrit remembers.
I remember a young woman named Robin. Yes. And that's about it right there.
Let's go for man in red waving a piece of paper. You love seeing continuity errors in movies. He was asking about the significance of your tattoo on your face.
Oh. They kept changing. Mark, no significance to it. It was just a gag. Rolf Miller, the brilliant makeup man, when I first went in for the first makeup session, I told him I wanted to look like Robert Taylor in Camille. Men's glamour makeup, and he did a great job. And then we started talking about maybe a beauty spot, and it just seemed like fun to make it different every time. It was a four-leaf clover, I think, and a Sagittarius arrow, and a broken heart. It was skull and crossbones, right? Isn't that most of them?
Yeah.
Can't hear you, bro.
He's saying that 2 letters.
2 letters. Don't recall. You know about that a good deal more than I do. I think I would have to go back and look at it frame by frame.
Jensen,
remember.
you stumped the beef. Okay, we haven't had anybody in the top, so there's a lady, I think, right in the middle, yeah.
I actually admit that I was calling myself a movie. So I was much older than you. And I would love to hear Paul Williams say, tasty.
Did you hear that, Paul?
No, what was it?
A request for you to say the line, tasty, Winslow, tasty.
Say what?
What?
This lady would like you to say,
Tasty wins, oh tasty. So the dark had a little girl come over to me, and I mean, even these days, a little girl in the airport in Canada came up to me and she said, "This is going to be really weird, but would you say Thursday?" I said, "What?" Thursday. Today is Thursday.
I'll say it for the little girl, please.
Thursday. Today is Thursday. Breakfast. Pick me up. I love it.
one of the organisers better tell me how many questions we have, because I know there's a raffle as well, so I'm going to keep taking a few more, but so you let me know what time we have to wrap up. But this man's been in front of the light the whole time, so you have a question?
Danny from Dallas, where the film was shot. I just want to know a couple of things. One, when Finley's going up to the Swanage, and there's a little song, "Never thought I'd get to meet the devil," was that longer? And what was it like dealing with the cold back then?
Did you get that pulled up asking
Yeah,
about
you asking about the song. You know what? I don't know why. I just looking at that's one of the few pieces of music that I put in afterwards. Because the songs are production, they're performed in the film. They have to be written and recorded before you shoot it. But this was a specific case where this wonderful girl's face as he's going in to essentially meet the devil. So I just wrote that little bit of a song, and I think at one point I thought maybe I'd finish it and do something more with it. But it felt like the right thing to put there. It was just a little bit of silliness that I kind of like too. Thank you.
The second part of that question I'll throw to Peter and Jeffrey is, what was it like shooting in Dallas in 1973? I can imagine some fun and mischief was had.
It was a lot of fun at the hotel. Every night, all the cast would get together and have a wonderful dinner, I think, the cast and a lot of the crew too. And I think a couple of us went to see what is it called?
Grassy knoll.
The Grassy Knoll. But most of the time we were actually sort of in the hotel. And I didn't get to see a lot of Dallas.
Well, it was also over Christmas and Thanksgiving.
That's right.
So one of the sweetest memories for me is that we're down there, we're shooting, our mates or our girlfriends or whatever for the most part are not with us. And at the time I was dating a young lady who would later become the mother of my children. But I was down there by myself. We were shooting the scene with you and I in the car after Beef. We'll go to Swanage and celebrate that scene. We shot that scene. It was freezing in the basement of this building, this Zale building, I think we were shooting in. And I got out of the car and I walked back up into the lobby. There was no dressing room or anything, just sit in the lobby until Brian wants you again. And I walked into the lobby and my friend Bill Bixby was sitting there with his wife and Katie, the woman who I would later marry. But it was just one of the really sweet moments where Bill Bixby said, "We just didn't think you should be alone on New Year's Eve, Paulie." So Bill Bixby, the whole Eddie's father came to say hi, and it's just a favorite memory. I love Bill.
And when we were, it was cold, but we were in the hotel so much, and we walked between the hotel and the venue, the theater. Right. And the best part about Dallas, I remember, I was a recording artist back then, and slightly older than 7, but much younger than now. And half of the attractive girls in Dallas seemed to be on the set. There were so many pretty girls on the set. All those nice Dallas girls. That was great.
Yes, I want to get paid. I want to get paid. Yes, I want to get paid.
But speaking of beautiful moments, this was when it turned out that we were going to be on location on Christmas. I don't think anybody was that happy about it. Get back to LA. But there was a little lounge bar, disco-y thing in the hotel, and there were Jessica and George Melanie and I were down there having a drink, and there was a little dance hall, a dance floor. And do you remember this, Jessica? You and George got up and danced, and there was a thunderstorm outside. A huge bomber thunderstorm. And the song that came on was Stormy Weather. And you and George danced this 40s dance with him with a hat on, that kind of old-fashioned hat. And it was one of those greatest moments you'd never see two great actors acting out a 40s song in real life on a little stage with a thunderstorm going on. A Story of Others is a great moment. There were a lot of those on the school.
I wish you had had your iPhone with you.
You should all know, I don't know if you looked at the credits, but the wonderful Sissy Spacek was Jack Fisk's assistant at the time.
She got a credit as
She got my assistant, yeah.
Well, I think she was a little more than his assistant.
No, well, no, I know that. I'm saying she was credited.
Something going on there.
But this had already, I believe, shot Badlands, correct? But it hadn't come out yet. Right? Yes.
And then, Paul, you edited Carrie was your next film with Wright, correct?
Say that again?
Carrie, Paul Hirsch, your next film was, so Sissy Spacek went from set dresser on this film to the leading Carrie. Was that the next one?
I think we did Obsession before Carrie.
You've now ruined my Harper credits. You're allowed. I think we're just going to take a couple more questions because we have a little short video to show.
Wait a minute, I want to tell you what I remember about the hotel.
Okay.
We were working nights, obviously, a lot of the time, and got home just when back to the hotel just when the rest of the world was getting up. And one Saturday or Sunday morning, I was blasted out of bed by the sound of a marching band, which sounded as though it was in the room with me. And I looked out the window, and there was a marching band practicing in the parking lot. I don't know what I thought I was doing. I called downstairs to the desk and said, is there anything you can do about the noise? Can you get them maybe to play more quietly or wait till later in the day? And then the girl said, sir, this is Cotton Boat Weekend, and if you don't like it, I suggest you leave.
Okay.
I have one more quick story about Gerrit. In Dallas, many evenings, we would all sit together and have dinner with Brian and Ed Pressman, the producer. And there were money problems during the making of the film. In fact, I think at one point the film shut down, right, for money. We were out of money.
You're right.
So Gerrit every night would tell the waiter to bring the check to Ed. He would always go to Ed, and then he would go, more money, Mr. Pressman.
Yeah, and did we get more money? No, we did not.
Let's just take a couple more, and then we're going to have a little video and a raffle. But unless somebody else from the balcony. Oh, is that for Paul? Yeah, a swan-shaped birthmark on the back of in the bathtub scene. On the back of
There was a body double for when you have a scene where somebody's back and you see me reflected in the mirror. They had actually two bathtubs that were facing each other with a mirror that could be pulled out, so that instead of seeing the reflection of me actually reflected, you could pull the fake mirror out. You have the other bathtub sitting over there. I would get out of the bathtub. Go in the other bathtub, get into it, water was cold. Get in the bathtub, the double would get in the other one so that you could shoot a two-shot with the back of the other guy. And he was much better built than I did. We kept the water up as high as possible to hide my tummy. I looked really good when the water was here. The water came down, it started to look a little out of shape. Keep the water up here, and I looked like I matched that guy. But I don't know who he was, but he had a fabulous, the body that I would never have. At any rate, I don't remember the tattoo. I know I saw his tattoo. I don't remember one being put on me. I don't know that you ever saw my actual back. Maybe you did you? Well, you see my actual back. We've known each other for years.
No worm. This lady with the red hair is waiting a lot, so I'm going to give her the last question. I'm sorry. This is like the pink hair.
I actually wanted to ask just about chicken dinner.
Yeah, the chicken dance that Gerrit stole from me. Choreographed? Well, I think I've practiced chicken dance for years.
You practiced that?
Well, they were having fun in a hotel getting drunk. I was practicing my chicken dance, honing my skill. No, I made up my own dance, didn't I, Peter? You didn't tell me what to do that chicken dance. You just saw me do
Well,
it.
my choreography abilities were somewhat limited. So when I worked with Gerrit, I think I said, okay, why don't you try it too? We sort of worked a little bit on the stuff, but
I'm fond of saying that I did my own
well,
choreography.
then you did, of course.
I worked alone.
And chicken dance predates the rest of development by 30 years as well. I think we have a, Rod, do we have a video now?
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What's next?
It's a special greeting from one of our friends who would have killed to be here, and he made a video for it.
Okay, I know who this person is, and this person speaks better in his second language than I do my first. So enjoy this message from Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, no!
Hi, this is Guillermo del Toro, and I'm here to join you in Video and Spirit for this 40th anniversary of the great movie Phantom of the Paradise. I would love to be there with everybody there, all my friends, and especially Paul, whom I've grown to know and love, and Edgar, but in spirit also for the entire cast, William Finley, who is the soul of the movie, who is the Faustian soul of the movie. I would love to be there also for the anniversary of the great Creature Features, which is a temple of monsters and mayhem, but alas I can't. Phantom of the Paradise, however, remains a very important movie for me. I saw it when I was about 10 years old, and it made a huge impression. Its director, Brian De Palma, became and is one of my big idols, a true craftsman and storyteller that has no parallel, that has a unique style, and that is an incredible imagination, and has influenced every generation, starting with mine, and has left an indelible mark in cinema. The film is an incredible blend of love story, Faustian tale, rock opera, and there's at least one or two shots that are Phantom influenced. I collect the memorabilia, the toys, the action figures, replicas of the mask, the poster, etc., because that film became one of the top 10 seminal films of me as a storyteller, and that shaped my taste and the sort of crazy, excessive, gory, romantic storytelling that I aspire to do. So enjoy it. Let's all remember Bill Finley, who is not with us but is there with you. And next time, I promise to be there with my own personal copy, the only print I own, 35mm print of Phantom of the Paradise. Enjoy.
Before we say goodbye, we're going to do the draw.
What happens, is that correct? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Some lucky people are going to get away with something very special on 17.
You guys do this. This, by the way, is Rod Larkington, the impresario for this evening, and one of the people from Winnipeg who really started the ball rolling again for Phantom.
Couple of things we want to do before we say goodnight. We have the draw for the Finley print. I would like to do a couple of things. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you for helping put this all together. What you might not know, though, is there's a couple of cast members here surprise to you. But way up in that second row on that balcony is Comanor, who was the bass player in the band. The other
And you haven't changed a bit.
The other cast member from the film that you might not know is actually sitting up here already, because I didn't know this until I met her. Bill's wife, Susan, is in the film, and if you watch the film, when he's taking the helmet off, there's a girl that grabs that helmet and puts it on and is standing there. That is Susan. I'd like to thank Edgar for doing a great job on the panel discussion. Phenomenal. One person, before I do this drop, one person, we did have another video from Ed Pressman, but we had some technical difficulties, so we couldn't show it. So we did have that. Last person I have to thank was my wife, because believe it or not, she allowed me to come to this today, even though today is my 26th wedding anniversary, and I'm not home. So I really got to thank you for that. Here we go. If I can read this, because you know what, I'm getting old now too. 073 2915.
Wait, no.
073? Nope. Great. Perfect. Beautiful. Before we call this a night, don't any of you leave yet, because we have to talk. And we have to get out of the theater. We have to get out of the theater. Yeah, we're doing a sequel. We're going to have to get out of the theater in a few minutes. By that exit over there is a lovely girl named Sandy holding a Deaf Records box that is for donations for the scholarship. If you feel, please, as you're leaving, please help donate. Thank you and have a good night.